Hi everyone, welcome to Nyuki. I will tell you what, we have a very, very special guest today, and I don't know what to tell you. She will tell you everything about herself. I'll give it up to her.
Yeah, my name is Lumiere Bukasa. Depending on where you are from, you will pronounce it differently.
Yes.
So here's Lumiere, but it's Lumiere Bukasa. I'm an author, storyteller, director of a nonprofit. I wear a lot of hats. I'm not really sure what to say, but yeah, I do a lot of things in the community.
Nice. So you see, like I said, if I were to introduce her, I would give you guys some nonsense.
Oh no.
Yeah, like you said, you wear many hats, and those are just few, right?
Yeah.
And also here, I don't know if, I'm very excited to jump right in, but let me back up. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, I am good. I have been doing a lot of talks today, so this is like I think my last for the day. So
Okay, hopefully.
Hopefully
You saved very valuable information. Hopefully you didn't
give it away too much.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you left some for us. And how is life in general?
Life is going well.
Yeah.
It's busy. When they say adulting is no joke. It's no joke.
Anyway, it's very expensive too. I'm experiencing.
Very expensive.
Yeah. Thank you. Like you said, and like I said, you are a very busy person. So thank you for your time. I very much appreciate it. I told Spani no, I'll take this one because I was like, we don't know. The schedule might be full, and we might, it might be a while for her to come back.
I will be back.
Yes. So anyway, yeah, thank you so much for your time. What do you do for living?
Yeah. So I work as an early college specialist for Northeast high schools, so Northeast Denver, and I oversee their CE programs, which is college classes taken at a high school level. And so I oversee that, and I try to make sure that they are implementing anti-racist ordeals in their way of conducting their curriculums,
yes,
and making sure that the students, black students and brown students, are being served, especially in the Montbello area. So
yes,
yeah, that's what I do.
Nice, and that's very beautiful. So you said Montbello area. Is it
Yes.
a high school or?
It's the high school. Mm-hmm.
Don't they have a different name now?
They combined one high school into one, but I don't work for one particular high school.
Right.
I work for Northeast, I work for Montbello, and those are the two that I'm working on right now, and it's a lot.
And is it minority in general, or there's a specific minority that you want to make sure they get the right information and services and a resource?
Yeah, so those schools are predominantly minority, but there is a large percentage of Hispanic students. And so when I started to work for the schools, I noticed that there was a lack of black staff. Mm-hmm. And so there was a lack of service given to African students and black students.
Okay.
Where if I go into high schools, I will see that it's predominantly black students that are out in the halls, mm-hmm. and they're not going to class, and their grades are absolutely terrible. Mm. And so the statistics that I started to see matches what I'm seeing in person every single day.
Okay.
And so I mainly am focused on black and African students, but I'm for everybody. But
and how long have you been there?
This is my first year.
Okay.
I graduated, and then I was just hired right after graduation.
Not many people can say that.
It was a miracle on its own.
Yeah. So, and what did you notice was the challenge on the students, and what are you noticing also now? As you get into the system, in the staff, in the whole system of education. What do you think is the challenge when it comes to Africans and African American students?
There's a lot, I think. Do you have all day? Because I can go on.
I live right there, so it's like 2 seconds.
No, but I noticed a few issues. I think one that I noticed is that when you look at the school board, the DPS school board, and all the things that they have outlined, that schools need to do this, it sounds good on paper,
Right.
but it doesn't get executed very well. And so because of that, there is a lack of resource being distributed to Black and African students. There's a lack of support. And then the staff aren't really being trained to respond to trauma-filled students.
And also, I can add to that. Even if they did get experts or professionals, it is also it's still going to be a challenge because they don't have that experience.
Right.
And I'm assuming, I don't know how you arrived, your family arrived. Can you tell us how your family arrived in the U.S. before I start assuming anything?
Oh, wow.
So I can go on with my next question.
Okay, I'm just going to walk you through the process. So we came from Zimbabwe. We left Congo. That's where I'm from. DRC, the best country in Africa.
Okay.
Let me not, Anyway, I'm sorry, Theo. It's just the best. You can't argue. But no, so my father left Congo when I was very young and went to Zimbabwe, and I joined him years later. And from there, we were refugees, and we spent... I don't know how many years. I can't even tell you. So I went to school there for a little bit, but then I got kicked out because of lack of school fees, and I was a troublemaker. And then
let's use the lack of school fees. It was expensive, yes.
It was very expensive. And so we came here in 2009 as refugees, of course. So I hold that title.
And what is the status? And it doesn't make. What is the status of the students you kind of work with, other than the African American? We know how they got here, and it wasn't fun at all.
Yeah.
The African students, what is their status, and how did they arrive in the U.S.?
You have a lot of similar stories when it comes to African students. They came here as immigrants, and so. Yeah, a lot of them came here as immigrants and refugees. So those are the titles and the cap that they wear normally. And
it takes me back to my question. Like, we can't hire experts in the field or whatever. We can hire professionals, but like for you professionally, and you have the experience, it's going to be easier for you to work with those students, and that's what I'm saying. And we've seen less of those kind of people in those fields, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what the point I was trying to make is, we need more people with experience. And I'm not talking about resume experience, but life experience.
Yeah.
Because I know how I'm going to have a conversation with a refugee, because I'm literally speaking or talking to a fellow similar experience, and I went through the same thing. And so what do you like when you're working with them? What do you like? What method or what style do you use to approach the students?
I mean, okay, so that's where I am still struggling, even though I have the experience and I know where they are at. There's just a lack of structure within the schools or any type of infrastructure for us to actually build something with the students. And so you are coming into a space that has no particular resource for you to work off of. So now I have to build my own structure on how do we make sure that we are creating a community here. And how do we make sure that the students, they feel heard? And so one thing that I started to do is we actually rose up again BSA and ASU. Should I expand on that, or should I just keep it as?
No, go
BSA,
on.
Black Student Alliance and African Student United.
Yeah.
And so that space, which they have not had for a long time, became a space for them to talk about their experience. And then with that, I'm realizing that we need to get the students on student council, on in meetings with the staff members when they're having meetings with the students to see what they can do for the schools because their voices aren't being heard.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is making sure that I'm taking their needs and then voicing it and giving them that power to voice their own.
Oh, nice. And that's very beautiful. Because I wanted to ask you, like, oh, how do you think we should? Yeah, but you answered the question. And so that's from what you do on a daily basis. And then you also mentioned that you a director of a nonprofit. Can you talk more about that, like the name, what the reason behind it and everything?
Yeah.
Sorry, are you the director, also the founder?
I'm the director, the founder.
See, you forgot that one. You see,
I
you
never
have
really
to mention. You have to mention that. You have to mention that.
I never really try to take credit. I don't really think it's my thing, or it's like I don't like being in charge. It's like
you have to though.
It's something I'm learning.
It's a lot of work, but you have to, because you go to the government and you find out somebody else took over, and that's politics. Yeah. So
yeah.
But if you can talk more about the nonprofit that you founded and directing at the moment.
Yeah. So it's called Education for Africa. So basically what it is we provide resources to immigrant students, and that is in the way of education and healthcare resources. Okay. At first, when we started, it was just to provide aid for Congolese women in the DRC, which we still do, but we are branching out because we're seeing that there's still a need here in Colorado where it's like a lot of our immigrant students are not really being provided with a lot of resource. And I didn't even think that was a problem until I started to work in education.
Right.
And so we are providing them mentorship program. We're providing them with the space to kind of get aid. And so right now what we're doing is we're working with Northeast Early College, and we are currently providing mentorship, but what we want to implement is a scholarship that comes out of that mentorship program to motivate students.
You mentioned something, so it is education for Africa.
Yes.
Not Africans.
Africa.
I want to understand that one. Africa.
I do believe that we carry Africa everywhere we go. And so when I'm saying education for Africa, it's educating the individual, but then understanding that the individual benefits, the progression of Africa. Okay. So, and I do believe that as Africans here, we are carrying Africa everywhere we go. There's no moment where it's like, I'm just separate.
You speak like, aha.
So.
So I do understand that. So you mentioned Africa, and then you also mentioned, and in the beginning, you were providing resources for women in Congo, right?
Yes.
Is it the same thing for your nonprofit, or is all genders, even here in the U.S.?
For the education part, it's all genders. But then when we transfer over to Congo, we are seeing that there is a vulnerability when it comes to the women there. Okay. Especially with sexual violence, which I'm very passionate about, right? And it's something that Education for Africa was also founded on, was to also help women that are in that situation to get educational resources. So we started to see that if we can help elevate and empower women there, we can also do the same for men and children.
So we can last.
No, that's not that's not the point.
For somebody that will say like, oh, why just women? All lives matter kind of BS. Why just women? Why even men too need education? Like, what do you have to say about that?
I don't disagree at all. Men need education as much as women do, which is something that
I think we have a leg up, but yeah.
Right. And in a country like Congo that really does not prioritize, I wouldn't say prioritize, but really,
let's say Africa, because
Africa in general, women are placed at the bottom of the spectrum. And so they are vulnerable to abuse, they are vulnerable to economic depression. And so if you don't look at them, who's going to look after them? Because the men are running and we are seeing the result in Africa. I'm just saying.
I mean, like, I'll be honest with you, right? When I'm in a position, I'm not going to think about a woman. I'm going to think about me as a man.
Yeah.
What's going to be benefit my fellow men, which is messed up in all kind of level. But you know, that's the reality. The reality when we look at the African leadership. You know,
Yeah.
these men, old men, they're not going to think about women.
Yeah.
Also, they're not going to think about the youth.
Yeah.
So I see where you know.
I think there needs to be a shift in power where women are taking over, because we've tried having men in power for so long. Come on.
No, and you know, the proof is we done damages, you know.
Yeah.
And like, to be honest with you, I have done a little research and seen. I know, like, it's less than 1% of women leader in the whole, you know, world.
Yeah.
And I did research. I saw this one research where most countries that are led by women.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the research has found that women are actually better leaders.
Yes.
Because as a woman, you're going to care about the children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As a man, I don't know. It's like, he has clothes. That's enough, right?
Yeah.
You know? So I do think we do need more women in leadership, and all the best to you guys. But, like, how do you think you guys are going to get there?
Oh my goodness. We have to demand it. And even with that, there is still a lot of systems placed there that's going to stop us. But I think that we need to just stand up and just go for it.
And I want to know, how do you go for it? And, you know, I'm not trying to learn your secrets so I can tell my fellow men to be prepared when you guys come. Like, how do you think, like, you know, if some women that think that is not possible, like, how do you think it can be done?
You know, I think some women think that it's not possible, because I feel like there's this discouragement that has been placed on women, where it's like a woman in position of power, that's very masculine. And I've had, even me per se, I've had comments where it's like, if you speak your mind and you go after this position, you're not woman-like. Why are you, you know? Yeah. And so kind of going above those stereotypes and still, like, running. If you want to run for a position, run for a position, because you're gonna have people that are gonna support you. You're gonna have people that are not gonna support you, which is something that I always emphasize, even here in Colorado. Like, women, as African women, need to go for these positions. Yeah,
and the sad part too is you'll be your fellow women too, saying like, no, you can't do it.
Oh yeah.
Look at her. She thinks she's a man now.
Yeah.
You know, she arrived to the U.S.
Yeah. Why you not married at 25?
You know, I mean, it's up to a person.
Yeah.
You know? But to trying to pull somebody down, like, oh, you should be married, you shouldn't be doing that, I think that's very messed up.
It's something we need to change.
I do agree. So you focus on nonprofit. Why not politics?
Oh gosh, no. Oh my goodness. I don't think I'm gonna thrive in politics. One, because as a person, I have come to realize that I care too much for people to kind of be in politics, where I know in politics you have to keep a certain image, especially for the party that you're representing.
Right.
And you have to say things that align with the party that you're in. Yeah. And I don't think I will thrive, especially if I see what's happening behind the scenes when it comes to politics.
Yeah, you can go on.
I will fight.
Are you planning to go back to Congo?
I am, but not as a politician. Oh no.
Mobutu, you hear that? No, because, you know, we see many of us, we see politics as like, oh, I want to make a change, so I will join politics. So I did not know if you took that path, it would take forever for you to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even about helping anymore. It just becomes about money, and it becomes about hierarchy.
It is always about money.
Yeah.
It is a career to a lot of people nowadays. It's not like, oh, I wanna make money too, like just like, oh, I want this kind of job, so I'm going to politics so I can make this kind of money, which is also messed up. And what do you think is different between politics and starting your nonprofit?
I think you have more control and more power over the kind of aid you provide to people, whereas in politics you get directed all the time. You don't have a say. Right. You dress a certain way, you talk a certain way.
And for the organization to be found here and sometimes work in the African country, like how is that, like what kind of challenges do you face? Well, like how is it working with the using American organization or American-based organization within the African society?
Yeah, it's a challenge, honestly. Yeah. It's a challenge that I'm still overcoming because, especially now with COVID where the grants are limited, they wouldn't really fund a lot of work being done overseas because how are they going to document it? How are they going to make sure that they know how you are using the money that you've allocated from them? And so that becomes a problem because they're not going to give you money because they wouldn't know how you're going to spend it in Congo. And it's very hard to track. So how I go about it is because we have a program here too helping immigrants and students here, that money that if we get that money, we kind of do what we need to do in the leftover or like salary, you send it back there to get that help.
And is the currency different or is the same?
Oh yeah, it's different.
Like
it's different.
More, is it more there or less?
It's the dollar.
Yes.
The dollar's more there, but however, because right now it's expensive there. I mean, my father went to visit there, and the Nido milk is like $30 or $30. Yeah. And so things are expensive.
Okay.
So it's making it even harder for you to do anything over there right now.
Yeah. So the challenges of two different system and society. What about the family challenges? And they say uncles or aunties and cousins. Have you faced this where they're like, wait, why are you helping those? You have family members here that need help. Have you?
I just block them. No. No. Just block them.
Because it happened to me, right? It happened to me.
I hope they're not watching.
It happened to me. I bought laptops.
Yeah.
Right? And I was working with this nonprofit, and I told my cousin, like one of my closest friends, it's like, hey, I want you to take these here because we done, many transactions before. It was like, wait, no, I'm going to take one out for me because I need it.
And there's another challenge because I have yet to find people that I'm trusting over there to do work with.
Okay.
And so right now it's like my cousin, but then with that, it's like, family first. And, we can do calculations, and it seems like the stuff that we're going to buy are a lot, and then we buy it, and it's like, why are we missing a box of food?
Receipt. I want receipt.
And then they can't provide your receipt because they don't get a receipt.
You can't write it. Nowadays, you take pictures.
But if they go to buy mangoes, how is the person on the market gonna
so and speaking of what you provide, like what is like the 5 main thing that every time something happens, anytime you provide services, 5 things on the list that you do not miss?
Pads for women especially, that's very crucial. We provide also just inner garments, you can say, and then food has to always be on the list. And then paper and pen, or just books and pens. So the last time that we had we not send things there, but we had one of our people send things or buy things there. Pads were on top of the list, only because we started to realize when we were going to visit different facilities and different people, we were realizing that they didn't have it at all.
And
yeah, and so it's something that we started to prioritize on our list. And slippers.
Okay.
Slippers was also still up there because they didn't have anyway. And then food. We normally try to buy them as much like bags of food as we can. Yeah, I think that's pretty much like what has to be on the list every single time.
Nice.
And of course they ask for like, oh, give me kikwembe and all that. I'm like, wow, we've given you all these things.
And they have the original ones, you know. So they're not cheap.
Yeah.
Also, like, speaking of challenges, also, do you what about the challenges here when you're trying to do those things? What about the people? Like, have you went to, you know, like, oh, this my fellow Congolese people, if I tell them my plans and what I'm doing back home, it's going to benefit all of us. Have they been like, you know what, we are here for your service?
I feel like you're triggering me with that question. You know where you're going with that question. You know.
I don't want to assume, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know where you're going.
So
with
how much, like when you say something, how much do they contribute?
Wow. So I think I have had a lot of challenges when it comes to our people here, where I don't really think even a lot of them really. I mean, they know that I have a nonprofit, but it's like, oh, you're over there. Stay over there.
Like, what is over there?
As in, they don't participate in anything. And the majority of that's a whole different topic. Oh my goodness, you don't want to get me started with that one.
Go on.
There's just a lack of community involvement when it comes to our community, so it makes it even harder for you to present to them this idea, because I don't think that a lot of our community members, especially the older generation, know the importance of being active in the community, let alone contributing so you can help your country. I mean, it's like that almost selfish mentality, but don't come for me. Wow.
No, no, because, you know, one thing I notice about elderly, I don't care what community. If it's Africans, is the same. I seen the same thing where it's like, I'm like, what can you say to them? Because they're always throwing shot at us, like, we're not involved in the community. We arrived to America, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we got a big heads. We don't listen to them. All those things, like, but you're also saying, like, you guys are not involved. Like, do you think we perceive community differently?
As in what? I mean, both parties perceive community differently. I think that our generation are becoming more progressive, as in the way we are seeing community. We're seeing community as a way to, I don't know, we are seeing it as a way to benefit the progression of our people. And not only that, but the progression of where we are at. Whereas there's almost like this closed-mindedness when it comes to the elderly and how they think about community involvement, where it's like, if we are okay, that's it.
Yeah.
I think that becomes an issue, because even within the Congolese community, for example, at some point, I think it's still now, there was like 4 different Congolese community that were ran. I'm sorry.
No, go on.
4 different Congolese communities that were ran by the elderly. And also some young people were also involved. And with that,
opportunities,
they were fighting for something that was so, it was ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Because they didn't realize how powerful it was for them to all work together for the betterment of their community and for the betterment of other people. And so it becomes an issue.
When they do work together, please let me know.
I am still waiting for that day myself. I'm still waiting for that day.
Yeah, no, it is so. And, you know, like, you can see that also our African leaders is the same mindset, you know.
Yeah.
They have, like, what I have always said is we have to All of them.
They all just have to.
All of them.
So all have wiped out.
Yes.
I mean, I think that would give us an opportunity to stand up and do our own thing. But I also do notice that even with our young people, I think that without even knowing it, and I think I also had to check myself, and I still check myself, is that sometimes we fall into the mentality of our elders.
I mean, yeah, I've one thing I noticed too, like parents can tell us whatever they want to tell us, but we'll always watch or imitate what they do. You know what I mean? Like, oh, Dad, you too much when you do that, but then you catch yourself doing the same thing,
and you don't even realize it.
Not realizing it, that's really bad.
Yeah.
Unless you're okay with it, also that's bad. But there's another thing we need to notice too, because as as the youth, I don't know if I'm the youth. Oh no, Spanish is not the youth. I'm the youth. One thing I noticed too speaking of parents, one thing I noticed too is we're not willing to work together because the elderly, they're saying like, oh, you guys don't listen, and we're like, no, you guys don't listen. So it's like
this battle.
Like you're right. No, you're not right. Actually, you're not right. I'm right, and they're saying no, I'm right. You're right. So how do you think we can get through that?
Gosh, I don't know. It's a challenge because I think there needs to be a level of understanding, but that's something that oftentimes our parents never really grew up with the concept of understanding your kids. What is that? And then now we are here, we are socializing and we're going to school and we're like, well, this is what a relationship should consist of, communication. Come on. And so our parents really sometimes kind of, their way of communicating is different from our way of communicating. Okay. And it's sometimes hard for us to come to that understanding and that mutual respect where it's like you say something, I say something, we may not disagree, but we can like all talk together to see if we can come up with a compromise.
Right. Yeah.
And there's not really a lot of compromising.
No, is most of the time is their way. Yeah. And I think some do listen.
Of course.
One thing I noticed, like based on my parents, it just takes a little bit more. So you have to be patient with them. So and I think the only way we're gonna work together is to understand each other. Yeah. But we also want our way. We're not anymore.
I think a little bit though.
Yeah. But yeah. So I don't know if you have more to say about the nonprofit side.
No. What do you? No, I mean I think that it's something. One thing that I had in mind when I was creating this nonprofit was, despite that we're gonna serve everyone. It
wasn't for the money, you sure?
It was not. When I started, it was just a school idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do plan to start education for Africa school, high school, college, university, middle school, elementary school?
As in implemented there?
Yeah.
Yes, but mostly high school.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of that, okay, so I have noticed also as Africans, our experience, which is very understandable, we arrive here and we notice for some that realize like, oh, there's more resources than where I just came from. Yeah. So let me try to help, and a lot of people do that, right? How come people are not working together? Because we are going back.
It's and it's not only the Congolese community. It's African. It's Black in general.
Because there are thousands of nonprofits doing similar things. Yes. So why can't we work together?
I have been asking myself the same question as you are asking me.
Have you reached out to some?
A lot. I have reached out to, I work in communities all the time, so I've reached out to different organizations. And one thing that it starts off well where you're working together and then it gets to a point where it's like it just breaks off, or everyone is in their corners, and then it's like, I don't know if we're competing for money. I think there's only one nonprofit that I have seen that has like been very at the center of helping other communities and helping other organizations. Am I allowed to say it?
No, go on.
Yeah.
No, go on and mention their name.
Yeah, no, it's what is it? African Leadership Group.
Okay.
Has been an organization that has been really...
It's funny, look like he has a different opinion.
Right. No, he actually is a busy man, but he's definitely good. Definitely resourceful when it comes to everything that I do, even to the grants that I have gotten. It's because he's helped me, like he's walked me through the process. So they are some people that are willing to help, but I think there's this mindset that I can have it, but not you, or it's almost like it's limited resources, even if it's not. Yeah. I don't know if it comes from the way we think.
I mean, you just explained how our countries are being ran. He's like, I don't want to leave this position. I don't want to leave. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's a problem.
Wow.
I face it all the time.
So how do you think because for me, when I look into working with anybody, especially if I'm claiming to try to benefit the community, I mean, we kind of manipulating and taking advantage, using community. Just throw a community in there, then everything will be fine. For me, I believe is not about me. Yeah. So if you have the same idea, I think we can work together. For me to look for money, that's me saying I'm too lazy to find a job kind of thing. Well, hopefully the money will be there in the future, but I don't think that should be the main point. Like, what don't people want to lose that control, even though we're going to serve the men the same purpose?
I think as humans, we have this selfish mentality sometimes. We don't even like to admit it, but we have this sense of the self. And so it's like hard for us to sacrifice, and it's hard for us to serve other people because we expect to be the ones to be served.
And we claim to love Jesus.
And we claim to love Jesus. And it's like, Jesus asks you to die to yourself, but a lot of people don't die to themselves.
Oh, no, it's not. I mean, Christianity is not easy. That's why it's hard.
Yeah.
So how do you think we can overcome that? Where we work together.
We need to plead the blood of Jesus at this point. Just pray everything away.
They say faith without work is nothing.
It's not,
so
right.
how do we put that work in?
Yeah, I think that as individuals, we have to have a lot of self-reflection where it's like, are you doing this in the right mentality? Do you want to actually help, and how does that look like? I think for me, putting your community before yourself, or putting others before yourself, and it's a hard thing to do, but always again, we talked about humans having a selfish mentality, so it's hard, but putting the betterment of a community, before you, is something that I realize is a problem with a lot of us. I'm just gonna keep it to Africans. With a lot of us Africans.
Oh yeah, it's okay.
And we need to come to that point where we are realizing the power of community and the power of, if you get better and if I help your light shine, that does not take away from me. I think there needs to be a lot of shift of mindset to start off.
But also, what about, do you think there's also lack of trust?
Oh yeah.
Because one thing I noticed is like, if I help you, I'll make sure everybody know that I helped you.
Yeah, that's pride.
Like you see that organization there. Yeah. I helped her get through that. And
I think that keeps a lot of people away from asking for help, because they're like, I don't want to hear, as me, for example, I don't want to hear someone always like, well, I helped you get to that point. It's like, oh my goodness, I won't breathe, I won't sleep.
Oh no, I'm the one who told them to go apply there for their nonprofit.
Yeah.
So Africans, Jesus told us, when the right hand do something, the left hand shouldn't know. which means there's a saying in Swahili, not Swahili, but there's a saying in Swahili, tenda mema nenda zako. So and if you, because honestly for me, if you're gonna help me and remind me, please don't do it. I would struggle. I would rather struggle than hearing somebody. And do you think we have that in the African community where it's like, no, you didn't help me. Why should I help you? Or oh, I helped you, so you obligated to help me.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, let's say I put you on the map, and your organization, right? Education for Africa. Let's say I put two nonsense in there and is there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I want you to come here this day because remember I helped you. You know, like why? Like how do we overcome that?
Oh my God. Again, I think it goes back to the mindset. We have been indoctrinated as Africans. I don't know, maybe it's because we come from, most of our countries are impoverished, even if we don't want to admit it.
Somebody say being poor is a mentality.
It's a mentality.
Yeah.
It's a mentality because it starts.
Sleeping with your stomach empties mentality.
No, not that. No. Okay. There are some truth to the saying where, here, for example, in the United States, where we have a lot of opportunities. And as much as we have difficulties because of how we look and our background, we still have opportunities that we can go for. Okay. And so have that hustling mentality where you go and grab it, go and grab it. And in that sense, poverty is a mindset, is a mentality, because you are in a place of resources. When it comes to Africa, though, that's a different. I wouldn't even really apply that statement to. Okay.
Well, there's a guy in my country that was running, and he was talking to the people, campaigning like, oh, being poor is a mentality. It's like they can't afford to send their kids to school. Like I don't think that's the right place to say that. Yeah. Though I get it, but I don't. I think there's a but yeah. Before we jump into like as a woman, as an African, as African woman, as a black woman. Like what is you like the oldest?
I am.
Jesus Christ.
Don't even.
So as the oldest, because I know you're taking care of your siblings from experience. I'm not the oldest, but as the oldest African woman, like that's a lot of is this passport of. Like there's a lot on your back where like those are challenges when we mention those. Like how is that and how are you able to come or get through it? I don't know if you overcome it or get through it.
I think I talk about the mind a lot. Okay. When I came to the point where I realized, wow, I wear so many hats that bring about difficulties, I started to realize that I am placed at this position of being a superwoman. And that's something that I portray in the book too, where as African women, as firstborn daughters, as just women in society, we are placed at this position where we have to be superhuman. And as black women, where it's like, it's almost like a pride to be a superhuman. It's like I used to tell myself I'm a walking protest, and I realized how much of a burden that is to be superhuman, to be a walking protest, and to still take care of my siblings. And so I started to dismantle all these mechanisms that I used to kind of like filter in the fact that I needed help. So I think I'm at that position where I realize that it's difficult to be a woman. It's difficult to be an African woman, to be an eldest daughter. And so I started to set boundaries where I'm constantly saying no to a lot of things.
How do you do that?
No. Like with your parents, especially, where it's like I'm working now. So it's like all my money has to be going to help.
Okay.
You know, and so in that situation, it's like, no, that's not gonna happen. I'm a bad child, but no, that's not gonna happen.
And you have to be okay with being a bad child. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
if you're not okay with it, then you're gonna fall back to it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, let me not be a bad child.
Yeah.
And you know, damn little. I don't think it's little manipulation, but it's it's there.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the books, right? I haven't read this one.
It's the same one, different editions. Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay, so I'll go based on this one. It was 2 different stories.
Yes.
And the first story is, I assume it was the Black American lifestyle in the society, and then African daughters or women experience.
Mm-hmm.
I read that, I was like, oh, that's nice. That's nice. Like, what inspired you to do that?
So I think, okay, so this is where it kind of gets complicated. At some point, I just considered myself Congolese, as in like I don't want anything to do with American or Black culture or anything like that. And so I started to realize as I'm in college that I'm denying being American to a certain extent, but I'm carrying that identity as well as a Black woman in America. And so I started to see that there's these 2 experiences where I'm an African woman, but I'm also a Black woman in America. Mm-hmm. And so the experiences are very, very similar, and the struggle is very much there. And so I wanted to tell it from both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have always wanted to ask, that's why I was like, you took you a long time. We should have talked about this first and then, but, so, and I don't know how this is going to come off, and I don't want to trigger anything. But like, one thing I wanted to ask is it like personal experience or like somebody else's personal experience?
Yeah. So there is a lot of experiences that are drawn from my personal life, and there is a lot of experiences that are drawn from what I have seen in the community, and have seen in the Congolese community as well.
And has Congolese or Africans read this book?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm trying to get a lot of Congolese men to read it, and a lot of African people in general to read it, which I have. I mean, I'm having a little bit of success, but yes. Okay. We'll say they have.
All the best. And the last story, and I believe is many African girls, even African American, but like let's focus on African girls where they're raped.
Yes.
And within the family.
Yes.
And like, how do we get parents to believe their children?
Oh, that's a difficult question that I have thought of as well multiple times, because I have been in situations where it's like, they are sexual innuendos directed at young little girls, and then the little girls go and tell their parents that this is happening, and they're like, a family member cannot do that. They will not do that, and you just have to trust in the Lord, and then just family members cannot do that. And so that really, in the back of the child's mind, the child really starts to think that they can't express what they've gone through, and they can't trust their parents or whomever their guardian is with this experience that is traumatizing. And as much as we don't want to talk about it.
Oh, no.
It takes time for and I will tell you my experience as well. It takes so much time for a person, even if they haven't necessarily been raped, but if they have been in a situation where they have been sexually harassed, it takes them a long time to forgive, and it takes them a long time to get over that. And I don't think we understand the amount of damage that we cause on the child if we tell them, well, family member can't do that. And you're not holding the family member accountable, so they will do it again,
Yeah, and to that comes a second or 2 more questions. So the first question will be, like, hopefully whoever is going to be listening to it, like how can you, like, if they went through that experience, and I hope none of them have, but if they have went to that experience, there's a huge chance that they have, because we know our community. That's one thing we're not gonna try to hide. Like, how can you encourage them, like, and it's hard to kind of go outside your family to speak to somebody else, what I mean? Like, if you cannot trust a family member, like, how can you encourage them to speak up or try to express what's going on?
I think before I answer that question, I always want to start with, there's a lot of emotions that a person may be going through. And then I want to kind of clarify something. This book is talking about women being raped as well, but there are statistics, even within our community, Congolese, Africa in general, that men are also being raped as well. This book is just for women.
Let's focus on the women.
Let's focus on the women.
Let's focus on the women.
So it's harder for a person who has been in that situation to validate the emotion that they're experiencing. They could be feeling rage. They could be feeling, hence black rage. They could be feeling sadness, and they could be feeling that it's their fault, because normally they start to nitpick all the reasons why it's their fault. So maybe I was wearing a short skirt. Maybe my hair was not done.
Before you go to that.
Okay. Let's take it back.
Yeah. How do you like? I want to ask the question, and how do you tell? Because for me, I believe that the way we dress is like you expressing yourself.
Yes.
Right. You know what I mean? And people might not agree with it. And one thing I will always disagree with is like, oh, you're not covering yourself. But then we go into like Islamic places where they cover head to toes, they're still being raped. So which showing like the problem is not you being cover or uncover, is as men being weak and wicked. Like how do you explain to that? How do you explain, like, how can you encourage girls like, hey, it's okay to express yourself? And how do you tell men like that's not a problem?
I mean, that's a problem.
No, that's not a problem. A woman expressing themselves, however they're doing it, that's not a problem. Now, how do you encourage women to express themselves and for men to not use that as an excuse?
I think that one thing that I speak about in the book is it's okay for women to speak up. And I think that's one thing I've been emphasizing, is despite the stigma that may come from you speaking up, it's okay to speak up for your own protection and for your own sanity and for the benefit of other girls that may be going through the same thing. Because if you do speak up, there's somebody else that may be going through the same situation as you that finds the courage to speak up because you did. So I always encourage girls to, first of all, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. And then secondly, it's okay to speak up. And even when you think that they won't hear you, still shout it as loud as you possibly can. And then men, I think that and what was the question? Because I want to answer a question, but I don't think that's the question you asked. The last part about men.
And like, how do you tell men that it's not okay? I mean, I should be telling men that it's not okay, but I don't think you should. But go. Like, what is your opinion when people are using that as an excuse?
I think that they needs to have a conversation where men are being told that if a woman speaks up, that does not take away from your masculinity. And this conversation where
but I'm very insecure about them. That's why I don't want you to speak up.
But then the thing is, a lot of men don't really understand what masculinity is. And so a lot of times we have men that have a toxic mentality of what masculinity is, where they feel like if a woman speaks up, if a woman is in her truth and she says, this person did this to me, they're like, well, that's my way of showing power. And I think a lot of men, they need to have a conversation about what it means to be man, what it means to be a man in the house or a man in the community, and still allow women to have their power.
Right.
So I think that men need to have that education.
We think for us to have our power is to oppress the women's power.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm saying that a lot of men really don't understand what it means to be a man, and they think that to send a woman to do whatever they need to do in the kitchen is masculine. It's not.
Well, so how do we hold men accountable?
I think,
and who hold them accountable?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that sometimes we give it up to women to do the task where the men in the community are quiet. The men need to speak up and hold other men accountable.
Spani, we starting a meeting as men.
Yes.
And
yes.
Go out and see. It's funny you say that. I remember a couple episodes back, a conversation, men and women, what men and women should do kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I received many texts from different men like, no, don't say that. Women should do this and this and this and that. Like what? Like why am I focusing more on women instead of myself?
That's an insecurity issue.
Oops.
I think that again, there's a lot of practices within our African culture that have given women, the men, this ego that they have to be a certain way, and then that's for women. But in order for us to talk about this issue, men have to also be part of the conversation, and men also have to be held accountable from other men.
You know how I hold my fellow men accountable? Like, bro, that's wrong, man. You're going to hell, and then move on.
That's not it. Sorry, that's not it. No.
Like, how should men hold each other accountable?
There needs to be a real conversation where you talk about the damages that is done from the sexual violence or from whatever abuse that is taking place. Not only on the women, but on the household, on your community, on generations to come, because trauma can be passed down to generations. And so men need to understand that their actions have such a powerful ripple effect into generation come. And so I don't think that a lot of men really think about that. They think about themselves. And so it's a thing where where they need to get out of this mentality of the self and actually go out there. And if we are talking about Christ, they need to study what Christ is like as well.
It says, women, obey your husband. That's it.
That's
where it
that
ends.
Doesn't mean what a lot of men think it means.
That's where it ends.
Obey means serve. Obey is serving.
That's where it ends.
Think about Jesus. What he do? He, obeyed the Father, but he was servant to the church.
And
he served.
The funny thing
church.
about that too is like, it's funny, right? Like you can ask my wife this. What I'm trying to practice, I'm never gonna tell my wife like, oh, the Bible say you should do this to me.
Yes.
Is the Bible say men do this, right? I'm a man, right? I'm gonna focus on what I'm supposed to do. Not trying to fulfill my insecurity. Like, nah, the Bible telling you to do this to me. And I feel like that's where that's where we go. Even with preaching is like men will preach about how women should obey their husbands. Yeah. But we're not gonna say what men should do. Yeah. And I think and that's a very, very big problem. I'm not gonna, and as a man, like I'm also trying not to do where I'm telling a woman, like, oh, you're dressing inappropriately. And so, and speaking of inappropriate, like, how do you why shouldn't I be the one telling a woman, hey, this is appropriate and this is not appropriate?
You're not her dictator.
Why men shouldn't be telling women, hey, this is appropriate, this is not appropriate?
Because it's not in a man's place to tell a woman what they should and shouldn't do.
Ouch.
And here's the thing, and I know we're talking about that verse where, some men, they just go with, oh, women are supposed to do this, and they overlook their own part. But even with that, they don't even know what that means.
Oh, no, they don't.
Yeah. And so they have this idea in their heads where it's like, submit to your husband. And then it's like the submission where they saw in the 1960s.
And that's not submission, really.
It's not.
That's abuse.
It is.
I was, you know how they, I don't know who say this, but you know how they say that, oh, you shouldn't question God.
Yeah.
Also, we have that mentality like, oh, I'm the man of the house.
Yeah.
Like, they cover everything. I'm the man of the house. Whatever reasoning, whatever disagreement you have, is not gonna pass in this house.
Yeah.
I'm the man of this house, and that's it is.
And then that turned into abusive practices.
They don't believe that. They believe that they're being a man. Let me not say they. I say we believe that we're being men.
You know what I noticed in our community is something where it's like, I picked up on this, where you can see a couple, right? They get married and they were well, and then all of a sudden the woman's dressing a certain way that they're not supposed to be dressing like that as a person. And then like it's like the man manipulating the woman, like, you cannot dress this way, you have to dress in maribaya. I mean, come on now.
Can I tell you a story? Mm-hmm. So after I got married, right?
Yeah.
We went to church.
Yes.
And my wife decided to wear bitenge.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, are you sure? Mm-hmm. Are you sure? And she was walking funny.
I'm sorry if I'm laughing at you.
she was walking funny, and like, are you sure about this? And then that was the last Sunday she ever wore it. I was like, come on.
It's not you.
It's like, right? Her own mother was like, that's not you. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think, and I also believe, it's like, really, why can't you be with like, if you're going to be with somebody and control them, I don't think you should be with that person.
Yeah. And I think that there's this perception that a lot of men have where it's like, oh, you're my wife now, and so I get to tell you what to do.
Oh yeah.
No. The way you were dating me, that's the same person.
Makeup.
There's
no makeup. No wig.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
So for what?
No wig.
What?
No. No makeup, no wig. Bitenge.
You know, I would take the divorce papers the next day. You see it on the table.
You're not being a godly woman.
You would take it with the Lord the day of the judgment. I will talk to the Lord. You're not being a
godly woman.
I will talk to the Lord the judgment.
And like, what do you? Because we had like 20 episodes, and it was just me. Most of the time, it was just me and Spanny man. Yeah. Saying this about women and saying it.
Why do you not have a woman in this conversation?
Because you guys are not. Why? See, you like other than our younger sister and the lady that came to talk about the insurance. Mm-hmm. You guys, and you now, it took you forever.
You did not invite me for a while.
You guys, like, who's pressing you guys? Like, who's pulling you guys? Are you guys afraid of somebody?
What do you mean?
Like, men are gonna be afraid of you because we don't like women that don't obey us now. Oh, yeah.
That's why we are running.
When you speak your mind, you're now obeying us.
That's why we're running. Oh, that's why we're running. That's why some of us are still single until the Lord has made.
Man, yeah. Before we do close, yes. You were explaining the rape experience and sexual harassment experiences. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to encourage women, even though it's a very emotional things, and just because we also blame women, like, oh, why didn't you speak up early? Like, can you explain that, why some also take time, and why some are quicker and some never say anything?
Because of because of fear, and then sometimes they don't know, they're still processing themselves, right, what had happened. And then another reason is because of shame. The shame that would come from people. Well, you
just talked that I remember that in the book too.
As a matter of fact, this is crazy because the last story is actually a story that I went through, which is crazy. And they are some details that my friend went through. So I took my story and my friend's story and put it together into one story.
Okay.
So everything that you're reading in the second story is my story and my friend's story. The second one may be more fabricated, to say the least.
But it's reality.
But it's reality.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I know a lot of people, a lot of women that still have that experience that, but don't really say anything about it. And until now, they can't really wrap their heads around what happened to them. So it's like, it's hard for them to even come out and say, this happened to me. Even talking to a close friend, it's an issue because they don't know how to voice it. And then when they're talking, and I think in the book, the new edition, there is a prayer, which I feel like I should read it, but I don't even know what page it's on. Where this particular prayer, it was a prayer that I was doing, which is I was asking God to kill the person.
You're not gone.
No, I was asking God to kill the person that,
because that's how much it hurt.
Because that's how much it hurt. And I wasn't even asking God to kill the person that did it, but I was asking God to kill the person that knew about it, but was blackmailing me.
Wow.
And so that person was a family friend. I consider that person a family. And so it's something that, even, as a matter of fact, the book was actually the first outlet I used to tell the story. Really, a lot of people, even in my family, still don't know.
Wow.
So it's something that it's crazy, because it took me from Congo all the way to high school, 11th grade, for me to let go, and to actually come to the point where I'm like, okay, God, I'm trying to forgive, and I'm trying to move on. But my prayers every single night used to be, God, please kill this person. Please kill this person. Because what kept repeating in my head was, oh, she's gonna tell everybody that this happened. And the way she made it seem like it was,
it was a she.
It was a she too.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's a different conversation.
No, you have to come back. You have to.
That's good. That's a different conversation.
You have to come back, and time is running out.
Yes.
I really, really want to thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I hope you won't disappear after this.
I will not. As a matter of fact, there need to be a woman in these conversations.
Yeah. I'm like willing to step out, and you can take my seat and express your feelings. But thank you so much for your time, and I hope you won't disappear, and this won't be the last time.
I will be back.
And before you go, if you have anything to say about Nyuki or anybody listening.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about Nyuki. Well, first of all, I just want to say, the work that you guys are doing, like the conversation that you guys are having, is truly incredible. And I don't know why a lot of Africans are not supporting this in Colorado, but that's just me.
Just the same way they're not supporting your nonprofit.
Yeah. Because I think these are the conversations that we need to have in our community. And I think that we all need to partake in these conversations. So pushing forward this, which I'm very adamant about, trying to make sure that we are all doing something, and then like pushing that forward.
Right.
I've seen that happening a lot in different communities, and I think that we need to do the same thing within ours, where we're supporting each other and we're pushing it forward. And I think that there's just a lack of push from our community, because this is amazing. So if we can all get behind it and just push it forward, we will have something that's going to take off, which it is actually.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, thank you for your time.